oceans of our planet lurk creatures weirder than our wildest dreams or our scariest nightmares. The vicious devil scorpionfish with its lethal spines. Filmed for the first time ever, a deep-sea life and death struggle. And this, believe it or not, is the longest animal in the world, longer than a giant whale, yet it doesn't even have a brain. Creatures that generate their own electricity. This one kills its victims with a high voltage charge. The strangest of sharks, with a snout like a medieval weapon. And we come face to face with one of the ugliest of all the ocean weirdos. Our journey into the realm of the ocean weirdo also takes us deep into the abyss, where scientists are using the latest technology to explore uncharted waters, never knowing what they will find next. Only recently has it been possible for science to explore the very deepest ocean abyss using remotely operated vehicles known as ROVs. The operator controls it remotely from on board the mothership. The images sent back from these deep-sea spy ships have opened the eyes of science to the secrets of the deep. Picture quality from these industrial cameras isn't always the highest, but to the scientists, the images are invaluable. In a unique collaboration called the Serpent Project, scientists are able to access video footage routinely shot by the oil industry. And Ian Hudson is one of the small team from Southampton Oceanographic Institute studying the strange creatures of the abyss. Already the project has achieved groundbreaking results. These exclusive pictures show a life and death struggle in the deep, filmed for the first time ever. It seems the lights of the ROV have attracted great swarms of krill at a depth of about 400 meters. These in turn bring in schools of cod, the perfect prey for hungry monkfish lurking out of sight on the seabed. Monkfish are huge animals growing to 3 meters in length. But until these pictures of this big-mouthed animal trying to swallow a large cod, no one had ever witnessed it feeding in its natural habitat. Scientists could hardly believe their eyes.
The best thing we've seen so far is a monkfish. Everybody knows perhaps what a monkfish looks like, but nobody's ever actually filmed a monkfish catching a fish in situ, actually in the deep sea before. We were lucky enough to actually film one of these monkfish stalk a cod and capture it in the mouth and then wrestle with it for 2 or 3 minutes. You can see that the cod is kind of sideways across the mouth and it's swimming, it's trying to escape, whereby if the monkfish should have caught it head first and actually got the head inside the mouth, the only place the fish's efforts can take it is deeper into the monkfish's mouth.
Having learned its lesson the hard way, eventually the monkfish gets it right and manages to gulp down a whole cod head first, and all on camera.
The monkfish goes to so much trouble to capture this one fish, it may be the only meal it gets for 3 months. So, the importance of that one fish to that monkfish could be the difference between life or death. So, it's quite amazing that we've seen something so unique.
But you don't need to go miles beneath the ocean to find our ocean weirdos, and you don't need millions of pounds worth of equipment. They can be found in the shallowest of waters by recreational divers using just scuba tanks. This weird creature lives at just 20 meters below the surface of the Pacific Ocean. This deadly predator is surely Mother Nature at her imaginative best, a design worthy of a Hollywood fantasy. It's called an ambon scorpionfish, and it can't even swim. But why has fish design evolved these strange creatures that actually look nothing like we imagine a fish to be? In the animal world, design or form is referred to as morphology. It's the theory that over millions of years, fish shapes evolved to suit the specific environment in which they live, resulting in some bizarre designs. This is another type of scorpionfish which clearly demonstrates extremes of morphology, having evolved the most vicious of spines. Again resident in shallow tropical seas, this weirdo nominee is almost gothic in design. A fishy concoction of spines and deadly poison, it carries the scientific name Inimicus. But turn back the clock to the mid-19th century when they first became freaks of the aquarium trade, and you'll find much more suitable names for this scary-looking character. Everything from sea goblin and bearded ghoul to demon and devil scorpionfish. With its antiquated array of hairy appendages and gruesome fins, it could so easily be the star in a fantasy film. The undersea equivalent, perhaps, of the horrid orcs in Lord of the Rings. Fitting when you consider the real meaning of Inimicus is the enemy. Often concealed just below the sand, this is an enemy whose beady eyes are constantly on the lookout for poor unsuspecting victims, which it disables with stingers that can cause excruciating pain. No wonder they can amble along unglamorously using their fins like feet without worrying about becoming a meal themselves. A very distant but equally menacing relative is to be found many thousands of meters down in the deep sea. With teeth like twisted needles and looks to kill, the anglerfish is the archetypal ocean weirdo. This is one of the specimens collected from the ocean abyss that scientist Tammy Horton studies in the lab at Southampton. Almost always the scientists have to study dead specimens as they rarely survive the long haul to the surface.
All of the animals that I look at, really, apart from when I go away to collect them at sea, are dead already. But that doesn't matter to me, because what I'm actually seeing is the new designs of animals, or the intricacy, the detail in just a leg or an eye. And when you manage to find out that it's a new species, that's a real moment of elation.
Some of the creatures from the depths have been the inspiration of Hollywood filmmakers. It's not surprising when you meet these mini marine monsters that the deep provides such fertile reserves to feed our wildest imagination. This tiny specimen is an amphipod, the very creature that inspired one of cinema's most terrifying creations. They burrow into deep-sea salp, a jelly-like creature, and eat their insides before bursting out through the stomach wall, exactly like the monster in Alien. Ugly, bizarre, lumpy, hairy, warty. Just a few of the names of one of our star ocean weirdos. This is the frogfish, a tropical marine critter that lurks in among the rocks and reefs, just waiting for a meal. The frogfish is one of the best examples of morphology in action, a fish that no longer looks anything like a fish. They come in many varieties, all with strange but subtle variations. Most can barely swim, so have to walk everywhere. They have no shell or spines to defend themselves, so rely on their amazing camouflage as disguise from potential predators. And as they can't move fast enough to catch their prey, the camouflage fools their victims. Even their fins have developed more like feet and toes. They've almost entirely lost their ability to swim like normal fish, so actually they prefer to walk. Some have strange appendages which help them blend seamlessly into the background. They might look like little grumpy old men of the sea, but when it comes to conserving energy, they're the supreme masters. Frogfish like this hairy pinkish specimen take camouflage to new extremes. Almost every square centimetre of its body is covered with fleshy nodules, enough to make our skin crawl. But to the hairy, warty or spiny or whatever kind of frogfish you are, it's likely that the hairier, wartier or spinier, the more attractive you are to other like-minded frogfish.
When you see those fantastic adaptations that they have, when you see animals which have really pushed their morphology away from that standard fish shape towards something really extraordinary that at first sight doesn't look like a fish, but actually it's because it's evolved from that standard fish form to do a particular task. For example, the frogfish, the way its body shape is no longer looks like a fish for its aggressive mimicry, for its camouflage, so that it can stalk prey and prey will approach it so it can feed on it.
This frogfish has evolved in a completely different way to the rest of its family. It makes its home among the sargassum weed and other flotsam at the surface, its camouflage making it almost impossible to spot as it preys on other small sea creatures that themselves seek shelter in the weed. Yet another weird quirk of nature in a sea full of surprises. To ensure survival in the dangerous tropical waters of Australia, the leafy seadragon has perfected the art of camouflage with the exquisite and delicate prowess of an eccentric fashion designer. Perfectly at home disguised among the lush foliage, the seadragon even appears to play to the camera, as befitting a true fashion model. The crab is a voracious predator, and others lurk close by. A sea dragon would make a tasty meal for this cuttlefish, itself something of a weirdo. It's only in the sea dragon's outlandish design that it finds protection, its fronds breaking up the lines of its body so that rather than standing out, it blends perfectly into the weedy seafloor that it has made its home.
If you just saw one removed from the environment that it lives in a empty, just a plain aquarium, it would look the most fantastic and unbelievable creature. As soon as you see one in their natural environment, in amongst all the fronds of the kelp that they live in, it suddenly all makes sense. And these appendages that it's evolved off its body from a sort of basic pipefish shape, where it started out and it evolved into this very elaborate body structure. It makes perfect sense.
Seadragons are among the best camouflaged animals in the ocean. They're also protected by law in Australia. Ironically, the very design that gives them camouflage in their undersea environment has made them desirable collector's items to man.
You understand the general look of a fish. It's got that shape with a tail and normal eyes. Yet when we go into the deeper waters, particularly into the twilight zone and the pelagic realm, we get some real weirdies down there.
These pictures of a bright pink sea cucumber in full rhythmic display are among the latest to be beamed back from the depths, thanks to the Serpent Project. With its umbrella-like head, it's able to move elegantly in the currents in search of food which is in scarce supply. This is a classic example of a deep-sea creature perfectly evolved to make the most of its environment.
That's the kingdom of the sea cucumber really, 3,000 metres down. That's where you'll get starfish and sea cucumbers and sea urchins and animals which really have a very slow pace of life. They move around very slowly. Everything that they do is very ponderous, and I guess that's the reason that they're so successful at those depths, that they require little energy to move around.
So when the sea cucumber does decide it's time to move on, it takes little more than a gentle flick to propel itself into an effortless swim. They live on the plankton that falls like seasonal heavy rain to the bottom of the ocean after it dies in the upper layers. As for how they reproduce, more study is needed, but it's thought some are hermaphrodites, possessing both male and female sex organs. This one has been captured on video here in the Gulf of Mexico, at more than 3,000 meters from its shallower relatives, whose equally bizarre designs continue to intrigue the world of science. Sea cucumbers are also found in the shallows. Here at least, their spawning is easy to observe. As a favoured weirdo, the sea cucumber's alien-like tentacles, which it uses to feed, are only a part of an extraordinary story. Remarkably, considering that it does nothing but go round eating the waste of everything in the sea cucumber has most to fear from man. However unappetizing they may appear, to millions they're actually eaten as a delicacy. But you wouldn't want to eat another weirdo which similarly spends its life crawling over the seabed, devouring everything in its way. This is known in the scientific world as the Nudibranch. It's the strange expanding head that makes it so weird. It goes round using its stretchable mouth like a vacuum cleaner to hoover up its prey, literally anything that gets in its way. But mostly it lives on small crustaceans, fish and plankton. People who've kept them in fish tanks often reported a strange fruity smell in the room. Scientists have now shown that the Malibu nudibranch produces a chemical compound as a defense mechanism, making it very unpleasant to eat. Weirdness isn't always about the look of an animal. Some creatures develop ingenious ways of defense and attack, which are literally shocking. These are the animals which have managed to harness the power of electricity. Take the example of the electric scallop. They use pulses of electricity as an effective deterrent to predators. But if it's real power you want, watch out for the electric numray. Not only can it strike with deadly effect, but the poor unfortunate victim is zapped with more than 200 volts of electricity, the equivalent of most domestic supplies. Scientists believe such creatures are able to generate and store electricity thanks to some very clever use of bacteria. It seems we still have a lot to learn about how and why the sea creates such a diverse range of creatures. To this day, we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about our oceans.
The chances of seeing something that nobody else has ever seen before is high. And I think it's probably the only job in the world where you can guarantee that perhaps you might see something new that day.
Even working round the clock, the remotely operated vehicle of Southampton Oceanographic Institute can only ever explore a minuscule proportion of the vast and still virtually unknown seabed. Theirs is a quest to discover the weirdest inhabitants of the undersea world. And not only in the depths of the abyss, but even in the ocean shallows, there's so much to discover. Almost daily, the remotely operated cameras that routinely film the deep structures of the oil industry are revealing new species and catching fleeting glimpses of marine life rarely seen. In the pioneering collaboration of the Serpent Project, the scientists are being given access to the footage from these cameras. It's a kind of undersea neighbourhood watch to help science make sense of the least explored part of our planet, and provides many more electronic eyes scouring the ocean thousands of metres down, hunting for new species.
If we can even get a small amount of images and footage back from, say, half of these vehicles across the world, the chances are we'll stumble across some things which are quite amazing. So I think it's just increasing the chances of seeing something weird or increasing the chances of finding something new.
And the project is paying dividends. At a depth of around 400 metres near the Shetlands off Scotland, the remote camera belonging to BP is again being put to scientific use. This time they stumble across what the scientists are calling the murderous crab. It's devised a brutal way of devouring its prey. Having caught one of the krill attracted by the lights of the submersible, the murderous crab uses its small but powerful pincers to decapitate its victim. Only then can it manage to eat its meal. Scientists who watched this grisly feeding method found that the murderous crab was successful in 1 strike out of every 10. Once the krill is caught, death appears to be a certainty.
There's always this arms war going on with, as the prey develop better defences, so the predators have to invent more ingenious ways of catching them and become more highly evolved in order to grab those prey and make the most of the opportunity.
With the video slowed down, we can see just how violent and deliberate the execution is. But it's not only in the cold ocean depths that strange and unusual crabs are found. Who would have guessed that this is in fact a crab, only one with hair? Not surprisingly, it's been given the name of orangutan crab. And these weird skeletal creatures are also species of crab that have evolved over time to fill a specific and specialised undersea niche. Another crab carries on its head pieces of the seaweed on which it feeds, so that it becomes indistinguishable from its surroundings. Morphology is the buzzword of science, the study of how species evolve very differently depending on their environments. Take the shark. This is the classic shape that people believe a shark to be. Streamlined body, sharply pointed head containing rows of sharp teeth, gliding through the ocean on fins like the wings of a fighter plane. In many ways, the shark is the pinnacle of evolution, the perfect predator. But there are many variations on the shark theme. The hammerhead shark has evolved with eyes protruding at the most extreme points of their bizarrely shaped heads. One of the biggest fish in the sea is the giant basking shark. Although coming from the same branch of the shark family as the ocean's deadliest predator, the great white, meat is not a part of its diet. Instead, it survives on plankton strained from the ocean. Then there's the thresher shark with its long, sweeping tail as long as its body. We still can't explain why these sharks have evolved in this particular way. Strangest of all is the saw shark. This rarely seen deep-water shark is believed by science to kill its prey by slashing them with its sharply spiked snout, but this is just theory, as no one has ever witnessed them feed. The warm, shallow tropical reef is a kaleidoscope of colour. But take a closer look. Hiding beneath a table coral is one of the ocean's most brightly patterned weirdos. The Rhinopeus is the holy grail of fish for underwater photographers. It's another member of the scorpionfish family. While other scorpionfish rely on their protective spines as defense, the Rhinopeus's bright and varied color patterns and lacy appendages help it to blend into the rich colors of the reef. It's an astonishing fact that more people have been into space than have visited the ocean abyss. 2.5 miles below the Atlantic Ocean, a submersible is going to visit the world's most famous shipwreck, the Titanic, which a deep-sea weirdo has made its home. This large, ugly fish gets its name because its tail looks like that of a rat. That's why it's called a rat tail. It patrols the deep oceans of the world in search of animal carcasses rotting on the seafloor. It's one of the weirdos that continues to haunt the rusting remains of the Titanic. The rat tail even made a cameo appearance in the blockbuster Hollywood movie. Now here's a weirdo fact. Some scientists reckon there are 10 billion rat tails trawling the deep sea. That would mean there are 3 times more rat tails than people. From the grey, colourless depths of the ocean where sunlight never penetrates to the bright, vibrant colours of the reef. Nudibranchs are some of the brightest coloured creatures of the ocean. Believe it or not, there are societies all around the world dedicated to studying these strange but unintelligent life forms, which come in a range of exotic shapes and sizes. The name Nudibranch literally means naked gill. This is the part of the animal that looks like a small flower. They actually carry their gills outside their bodies rather than protected within. Their diet helps them perform another weird evolutionary trick. Immune to the poisons in the sponges on which they feed, they use the toxins in their prey as part of their defense and copy the colours for camouflage purposes. Another bizarre twist in their morphology has resulted in the solar-powered nudibranch. It looks like a piece of soft coral, and in fact does something very similar. It provides a home to dozens of single-celled algae, which convert sunlight into energy. So the algae get a free home, and the nudibranch benefits from a cheap source of energy. And it probably needs the energy in big supplies when it comes to mating. Nudibranch sex can take up to 5 days, and some species end up laying hundreds of thousands of eggs, even millions. Now this weirdo is one of the ugliest and deadliest fish in the ocean. It's bad enough that the stonefish is almost impossible to see when camouflaged on the reef. When lurking hidden just below the surface of the seabed, it's impossible to spot unless it moves. But make the mistake of standing on one, and the consequences can be as dreadful as falling victim to a medieval plague. That's because these obnoxious-looking critters have venom to match their cosmetic disfigurement, a venom so toxic it can cause liver failure, paralysis, even hemorrhaging. They say beauty is only skin deep, but the stonefish seems to have gone out of its way to defy the laws of attractiveness in the realm of the ocean weirdo. Isopods are primitive creatures that in various forms are found both on land and in the ocean. In the lab at Southampton Oceanography Institute is a deep-sea giant of the species, nicknamed Darth Vader because it looks so much like the evil character in the film Star Wars.
Darth Vader, he's our famous big isopod, and we've had him in the collections here for a long time. He's become a bit of a favourite specimen. He's about 45 centimetres long, and these animals, these isopods as they're called, these are the ones that are the common relative of your woodlice in your garden. Now, as you can tell from looking at the specimen, it's very, very different in size to the isopods that you would find in your back garden under a rock or something. This is a very good example of abyssal gigantism. It's when an animal whose relatives in shallow water, or on land in this case, are a lot smaller than this particular specimen. It's fantastic to see something so big, and to know that these animals can survive and be to such great sizes, that they've been successful.
Swimming through this swarm of jellyfish may seem crazy, but these are in fact non-stinging jellyfish. Other relatives of the jellyfish have evolved even more bizarrely. Believe it or not, this creature can grow to a greater length than any of the big whales. Some of the biggest grow to around 40 meters, making them the longest creatures in the world. It's called a siphonophore, a twisting, swirling mass of individual animals all joined together in one long colony of transparent jellies. Amazingly, they all seem to have specific roles, from those at the head and tail whose job it is to create movement, to the dozens of other body parts which are responsible for eating and reproduction. And just like its more common relatives, the siphonophore is equipped with deadly stinging cells which cover its body, providing an excellent defense against the myriad of would-be predators. A weird and rare giant of the ocean. At the other extreme, we have weird and beautiful in the shape of a sea creature best known because its head looks like a miniature horse. Seahorses are gorgeous, delicate little animals whose weirdness comes from their unusual anatomy. In the dim and distant past, seahorses were considered freaks of the sea, even mythical beasts that transported the gods on their horse-like backs. They are in fact fish who just happen to have evolved heads uncannily like their terrestrial namesakes. But today their strangeness is more attributed to their highly unusual breeding behaviour. Not only are they devoted couples who pair for life, there is another quirky twist in the seahorse tale. For it is the male who takes on the motherly role of pregnancy, which lasts for up to 3 weeks. At the end, the pouch of the male seahorse bursts with life. As many as 150 tiny identical replicas of their parents flood into the sea.
It's very much a sort of a division of labour between the males and the females. The young actually come out as fully formed, ready to go, tiny little versions of the adults. You stare in wonder at how well evolved they are to their particular niche in the ocean and how they're able to get the most out of that. Just for example, the frogfish.
The frogfish is indeed one of the best examples of how animals have evolved in a specialised way. Slow-moving creatures, instead of pursuing their prey, they entice them with a built-in lure. An ingenious adaptation which is really a part of the dorsal fin that scientists call the elysium. In fact, it works exactly like a fishing rod. Some lures resemble shrimps. Some are more like fat, juicy worms. And when their victim has been drawn in by the lure, they pounce with the lightning speed of the fastest mouth in the sea.
To feed, it doesn't need to be able to swim. So why bother? Why waste yourself being a generalist? Get very specialised and become very good at it. The way it hunts is to stay still, wait for the fish to come into the target range, and of course the frogfish have their own special way of encouraging fish to come into that target range, and then to pounce.
This frogfish is making the most of a stroke of luck. The camera lights have attracted a small school of fish, and the frogfish is gorging himself on this unexpected feast. And look at its stomach. So fast is the speed of the strike that its victim is still alive, wriggling around inside its belly. Despite being gorged, the frogfish still tries for more.
And you can see how something like a lure would evolve on a frogfish. Frogfish, perhaps many thousands, millions of years ago, would have had a sort of slightly longer first dorsal spine, and actually as their dorsal fin waved in the current, that was attracting fish. Those frogfish did better, and the ones with longer and longer dorsal spines evolved into the wonderful structure you see today.
Its success rate isn't especially high, but when the frogfish does manage to catch a fish, it does so in the blink of an eye, almost too fast for the camera. Only by slowing down the picture do we get an idea of just how fast the frogfish can gulp its prey. A true ocean weirdo in every sense. Another dividend from the Serpent Project is causing the team great excitement. Life may be sparse in the deep ocean, but every now and then something very unusual comes along. The common squid hunts just below the surface of the nighttime sea. But it has strange relatives that live in the darkness of the deep ocean. Spotting something moving near the leg of an oil installation, the camera zooms in for a closer look. Could it be a major discovery? The fact is, this deep-sea squid has only been seen a handful of times before. It's called the Dumbo squid because its fins resemble the ears of the character Dumbo the elephant.
always got a good idea perhaps what you might expect to see, so when something does come past the screen that is unique, I think everybody just gets so excited because you know that what you're capturing is unique and you know that what you're seeing is the first time that it's ever been seen before.
Growing to several meters in length, the Dumbo squid now ranks among the previously unknown giants of the deep. For the scientists, it's another priceless discovery which helps inspire the continued exploration of the deep.
We've perhaps explored 1% of the seabed below a few hundred meters deep, so the deep sea really is the largest and biggest untouched frontier left on the planet.
Who knows what weirdos are prowling the world's oceans, never before seen by human eyes. Perhaps even stranger than anything we can muster in our wildest dreams or scariest nightmares.